You wake up and the light is already pressing through the curtains, and there is this immediate, physical sensation of weight. Not the weight of blankets or your body against the mattress, but something heavier, something that seems to press down from the inside. And what you feel in that moment is not exactly tiredness, though you are tired, bone-tired in a way that sleep never quite touches anymore. What you feel is the acute awareness that getting up means participating. It means being a person in the world again. It means answering questions and making decisions and inhabiting the continuous performance of being someone who is handling things, someone who is okay, someone who is engaged with the project of their life. And the truth is, you cannot do it today, you just cannot. So you stay there horizontal while the morning moves forward without you, and the guilt starts its familiar work, because you know what this looks like. You know how it would sound if you tried to explain it to someone. I just did not want to get out of bed. I could not face the day. It sounds like depression, and maybe it is. Or maybe depression is just the name we have given to something we do not fully understand. But here is what I want you to know before we go any further. What you are experiencing is not weakness. It is not laziness. It is not a failure of character or will. What you are experiencing is the weight of consciousness itself, and it is one of the most profound forms of exhaustion a human being can endure. Let me tell you what is really happening when you cannot get out of bed. Hannah Arendt spent much of her philosophical career examining what she called the vita activa, the active life, the life of doing and making and participating in the public world. But she also understood something crucial about the vita contemplativa, the contemplative life, and about what happens to a human being when the act of thinking, of being aware, becomes too much to bear. You see, most people move through their days in a kind of functional unconsciousness. They do what needs to be done without thinking too deeply about why they are doing it, or what it means, or whether any of it matters. They have jobs, and they go to those jobs and they perform the tasks required of them. And they come home and they repeat this pattern, and there is a mercy in that automaticity. There is a protection in not seeing too clearly, in not feeling too deeply, in not carrying the full weight of awareness about what it means to be human, to be alive, to be responsible for the shape and content of your existence. But you do not have that protection anymore. Somewhere along the way, you woke up. Not in the sense of achieving some spiritual enlightenment, but in the much more painful sense of becoming unable to participate in the collective dream of purpose and meaning that keeps most people moving through their days. And now, every action feels like a choice you are making with full consciousness of its arbitrariness. Getting up is a choice. Getting dressed is a choice. Going to work is a choice. Smiling when someone asks how you are is a choice. And each choice requires you to marshal resources you no longer have, to pretend that you believe in the importance of these actions, to act as if you are invested in the continuation of the narrative of your life. The bed, then, becomes the only honest place. It is the place where you do not have to pretend, where you do not have to perform the elaborate charade of being a functional adult who cares about things and has goals and is moving towards something meaningful. In bed, you can finally stop. You can finally let the weight of consciousness just sit there pressing down without having to animate your body through another day of going through the motions. This is not laziness. This is a profound moral and existential exhaustion that comes from seeing too clearly and feeling too much. Arendt understood something crucial about the burden of thought. She wrote about how thinking can separate us from the world of action, how contemplation can create a kind of paralysis. But what she also understood, and what I think is essential for you to grasp right now, is that this paralysis is not the opposite of engagement. It is a form of engagement that has become unbearable. You are not withdrawing from life because you do not care. You are withdrawing from life because you care too much, and you see too much, and the gap between what is and what could be, between how things are and how they should be, has become a chasm that swallows your capacity to act. Every day you get up and participate in systems you know are broken. You perform tasks you know are meaningless. You have conversations you know are superficial. You maintain relationships that feel hollow. You pursue goals that seem arbitrary. And underneath all of this is the crushing awareness that you are complicit, that by participating you are endorsing, that by showing up You are agreeing that this is okay, that this is how life should be lived. The person who can get out of bed easily is not stronger than you. They are simply less aware. They have not yet felt the full weight of what it means to be conscious in a world that seems designed to keep us unconscious. They still believe in the stories we tell ourselves about progress and purpose and the importance of our individual contributions. They still have faith in the narrative that their actions matter, that their work has meaning, that the daily grind is building towards something worthwhile. You have lost that faith, or it has been stripped from you, and now you are left with the naked reality of existence without the comforting illusions that make it bearable. This is not a personal failing. This is what happens when consciousness expands beyond the protective boundaries of conventional meaning-making. If this perspective is opening something up for you, consider subscribing. I explore these territories every week, and I would love to have you along for the journey. Here is what nobody tells you about awareness. We are taught that consciousness is always good, that seeing clearly is always better than living in illusion, that waking up is the goal. But what Arendt knew, and what you are discovering through your own experience, is that consciousness has a cost. The more aware you become, the more you see the machinery behind everything, the more you recognize the constructed nature of meaning and purpose and value, the harder it becomes to participate in the collective hallucination that makes social life possible. You start to see how arbitrary our conventions are, how much of what we do is simply performance, repetition, the unexamined continuation of patterns we inherited. You see how much suffering is baked into the basic structure of our lives, how much cruelty we accept as normal, how much injustice we participate in without thinking about it. And once you see these things, you cannot unsee them. You cannot go back to the comfortable unconsciousness that allowed you to move through your days without this constant weight of awareness. The bed represents a refusal. Not a refusal to live exactly, but a refusal to pretend. A refusal to animate your body through another performance of caring about things you have realized do not matter. A refusal to participate in systems and structures and relationships that feel fundamentally misaligned with what you now understand about reality. And there is something deeply honest in this refusal, even if it looks from the outside like giving up. What you are doing when you stay in bed is not avoiding life. You are avoiding the lie. You are avoiding the exhausting work of pretending that you still believe in the importance of the daily routines and social obligations and professional responsibilities that structure human existence. You are finally admitting, at least to yourself, that you cannot do it anymore. That the gap between your internal reality and the external performance required of you has become too wide to bridge. But here is where it gets complicated, and this is where Arendt's thinking becomes essential. She understood that withdrawal from the world, while it might be necessary at times, also carries its own dangers. Because when we retreat into pure contemplation, when we refuse to act because we can see too clearly the problems with any action, we abandon the world to those who see less clearly. We cede the space of human affairs to people who are still operating from unconsciousness, who are still willing to participate in systems we recognize as broken. And there is a kind of responsibility in this too, a weight that comes not just from seeing, but from seeing and then refusing to do anything about it. The person in bed is not just exhausted, they are also trapped. Trapped between the impossibility of participating and the impossibility of not participating. Trapped between the honesty of withdrawal and the cowardice of withdrawal. Trapped between consciousness and action, between seeing and doing. I know many of you watching this have never told anyone what you are really experiencing. You have been carrying this alone, maybe for years, thinking something is fundamentally wrong with you. But here is what I want you to understand. The moment you name this, the moment you acknowledge it out loud, even just in a comment, something shifts. You stop being alone with it. So let me ask you directly, how long have you been feeling this way? When did you first notice that getting up became something you had to force yourself to do, that being in the world started feeling like an unbearable performance? I want you to share in the comments, not because I need engagement, but because someone else watching this needs to see your words. They need to know they are not the only one. And if you cannot find the words right now, if it feels too heavy to articulate, just type this: I cannot pretend anymore. That is it. Just those 4 words. Because when you do, you create permission for dozens of others to say it too. Your honesty, your willingness to be seen in your struggle, it helps break the silence that keeps all of us isolated in our separate beds, in our separate despair. So comment below. Tell me where you are in this. I read every single one, and I promise you, you are not alone in what you are feeling. Now, what I am about to tell you is not a solution. I do not have a solution, because I am not sure this is a problem that can be solved in any conventional sense. But I do have a reframing that might help you carry this differently. What if the exhaustion you feel is not a symptom of something wrong with you, but a symptom of something right? What if the inability to get out of bed is not a failure of will, but a form of integrity? Stay with me here. Integrity means wholeness. It means being undivided, being aligned between what you know and what you do, between what you see and how you act. Most people live in a state of fundamental misalignment. They see things that disturb them, and they do nothing. They recognize injustice, and they participate in it anyway. They know things are wrong, and they continue as if things are fine. This misalignment is so common, so normalized, that we do not even have a name for it. We just call it being an adult, being realistic, being practical. But you cannot do that anymore. Your consciousness will not let you. You have reached a point where the misalignment has become unbearable, where you can no longer bridge the gap between what you know and what you are expected to do. And so you stop. You stay in bed. And in that stopping, there is actually a kind of integrity. You are refusing to betray what you know. You are refusing to perform a version of yourself that no longer feels true. You are refusing to animate a life that no longer makes sense to you. This is not the same as giving up. This is more like a crisis of authenticity, a moment where your being refuses to continue along a path that your consciousness has recognized as false. Arendt wrote about the courage it takes to be authentic, to live in accordance with what you understand to be true rather than what is convenient or expected. And I think what you are experiencing in your bed, in your withdrawal, is actually a form of that courage. Even if it does not feel like courage, it feels like defeat. It feels like weakness. But it is actually the strength of your consciousness refusing to compromise itself. The question then is not how to make yourself get out of bed. The question is how to find a way of being in the world that does not require you to betray what you see, what you know, what you have become aware of. And this is where the work becomes real. Not the work of forcing yourself to participate in systems you recognize as broken, but the work of finding or creating forms of participation that feel aligned with your consciousness. This might mean changing your life in radical ways. It might mean walking away from careers and relationships and identities that no longer fit. It might mean accepting a level of social and economic precarity in exchange for a degree of existential honesty. Or it might mean something else entirely. It might mean finding a way to act even in the face of absurdity, to participate even while seeing clearly, to engage with the world even while recognizing its fundamental brokenness. Arendt believed in the importance of action, but she also understood that action becomes meaningful only when it emerges from genuine freedom, from a space where we are not simply repeating patterns or following scripts, but actually choosing, actually creating something new. And maybe that is what needs to happen here. Not a return to the old patterns of getting up and going through the motions, but the creation of something new, some new way of being in the world that honors both your consciousness and your need to participate. Because here is the truth. You cannot stay in bed forever. Not because you should not, but because eventually you will need to eat, to move, to engage with others in some minimal way. The body has its demands. Life has its demands. The question is whether you will meet those demands by dragging yourself back into the old performance, the old pretense, or whether you will use this moment of crisis, this moment of profound exhaustion, as an opportunity to reimagine what participation might look like for someone who sees what you see. I think what you are really longing for when you want to stay in bed is not absence, but presence. Not the absence of life, but the presence of a life that feels real, that feels true, that does not require you to split yourself in two, to maintain this exhausting gap between your inner knowing and your outer doing. You want to be whole. You want to be integrated. You want to live in a way where getting up does not feel like betrayal. And that is not a pathological desire. That is actually the deepest, most human desire there is, the desire for coherence, for authenticity, for a life where what you do matches what you know, where your actions express rather than contradict your consciousness. But getting there requires something difficult. It requires you to actually honor what your consciousness is telling you, even if that means making changes that feel impossible or terrifying. It requires you to take seriously your own exhaustion, your own refusal, your own inability to continue as before, because that exhaustion is not random. It is not a chemical imbalance that medication will fix, though medication might help you manage the symptoms. It is not a character flaw that willpower will overcome. It is information. It is your being telling you that something fundamental needs to change, and the only way through this is to listen to that information, to take it seriously, to actually reorganize your life in response to what you have come to see and know. This is terrifying because it means uncertainty. It means letting go of the security of the known, even if the known is unbearable. It means admitting that you do not know what comes next, that you do not have a plan, that you are in the midst of a profound transformation that has no clear endpoint. And our culture does not give us much support for this kind of uncertainty. We are supposed to have our lives figured out. We are supposed to be productive, stable, consistent. We are supposed to get up every day and perform our roles without question. And when we cannot do that, when we find ourselves unable to participate in that collective performance, we are pathologized. We are told we are depressed, that we need help, that we need to get back to normal as quickly as possible. But what if normal is what is making you sick? What if the depression is not a malfunction, but a response, a rational response to an irrational situation? What if your consciousness is trying to protect you by refusing to let you continue in a way of life that is fundamentally misaligned with what you know to be true? This is the possibility I want you to consider, that your exhaustion is not the problem, that your inability to get out of bed is not the problem, that these are symptoms of a deeper issue, which is the gap between the life you are living and the life that would actually feel true to who you have become. And closing that gap is not going to happen through willpower or positive thinking or any of the other strategies we usually reach for when we feel like we are failing at life. It is going to happen through a much slower, much more careful process of listening to yourself, of honoring what you see, and of gradually building a life that matches your consciousness. I want to pause here and speak directly to those of you who have been nodding along, who feel seen in what I am saying. This is the moment where I want to invite you into something. If what I am sharing here resonates with something you have been feeling, something you have not quite been able to name, then I want you to know you are not alone in this. There are many of us exploring these questions, sitting with these uncomfortable truths, learning to see in new ways. I create these videos for people who are ready to go deeper, who are not satisfied with surface answers, who want to understand rather than just feel better temporarily. If that is you, consider subscribing. Not because you need another channel to follow, but because this journey of understanding yourself, of waking up to what is real, it helps to have companions along the way. People who will not offer you easy fixes, but will sit with you in the questions. I will be here every week with another exploration, another perspective, another thread to pull on, and I would be honored to have you here as part of this community of seekers and thinkers. So if this feels right, hit that subscribe button. And if you found value in this particular exploration, let me know in the comments what resonated most with you. Your reflections often illuminate things I had not considered. Let me tell you what I think Arendt would say about this situation. She would say that the crisis you are experiencing is not personal but political, not in the narrow sense of party politics, but in the broader sense of how we organize our collective life, how we structure meaning and value and purpose in our society. She understood that when individuals start to feel this kind of profound alienation, this inability to participate in the basic activities of social life, it is often because something is fundamentally wrong with how we have organized that life. It is not that you are broken. It is that the systems we have created are broken, and you are sensitive enough to feel that brokenness in your bones. You are the canary in the coal mine, the early warning system that something needs to change, not just in your individual life, but in our collective arrangement. And this is both a burden and a responsibility. A burden because you cannot unknow what you know, You cannot unsee what you have seen. You cannot go back to the comfortable unconsciousness that might make it easier to get out of bed every morning. But also a responsibility, because your sensitivity, your awareness, your refusal to participate in systems you recognize as broken, these are actually valuable contributions to our collective evolution. By staying in bed, by refusing to pretend, by being unable to continue with business as usual, you are actually doing something important. You are bearing witness to what is wrong. You are refusing to normalize the abnormal. You are holding a space for the possibility that things could be different, even if you do not yet know how. But witness is not enough. Refusal is not enough. Eventually, action becomes necessary. Not the automatic action of going through the motions, but the conscious action of someone who sees clearly and chooses anyway. And this is perhaps the hardest thing I will say in this entire exploration. You cannot stay in bed forever. Not because it is morally wrong or because you are failing, but because the world needs people who see what you see. The world needs people who have felt this exhaustion, who have touched the bottom of meaninglessness, who have experienced the weight of consciousness without illusion. Because those people, once they find a way to act again, once they discover forms of participation that do not require betrayal of what they know, those people become the ones who can actually change things. They become the ones who can imagine and create different ways of living, different structures of meaning, different possibilities for human existence. So the question is not whether you will get out of bed. The question is what it will take for you to get out of bed in a way that feels true. What would need to change in your life? What would need to shift in your understanding? What kind of action would feel aligned with what you see and know? These are not easy questions. They might take months or years to answer. They might require you to let go of almost everything you thought your life was supposed to be. But they are the real questions, the ones that honor the depth of what you are experiencing, rather than trying to solve it with superficial solutions. And here is something else Arendt understood. Action always involves uncertainty. We can never know in advance what the consequences of our actions will be. We cannot guarantee that our choices will lead to the outcomes we hope for. This is the fundamental condition of human freedom. We act into an uncertain future. We participate in a world we cannot fully control, and the meaning of our actions emerges only in retrospect, only through the responses and reactions of others. This means that waiting until you have perfect clarity, waiting until you know exactly what to do, waiting until you have figured out how to live in complete alignment with your consciousness, you will wait forever. At some point, you have to act without certainty. You have to get out of bed without knowing if it will be worth it. You have to participate, even while seeing clearly the problems with participation. But here is the paradox. The act of getting up, the act of participating, the act of engaging with the world even in the face of absurdity and meaninglessness, this act itself can become a source of meaning. Not because you are doing something objectively important, not because you have found the perfect answer to your existential crisis, but because you are exercising your freedom as a human being. You are choosing to act even when you could choose not to. You are bringing something new into the world, even if that something is just your presence, your voice, your specific way of being. And this, according to Arendt, is what gives human life its dignity. Not what we achieve, not what we accomplish, but the fact that we act at all, that we participate in the world despite our mortality, despite our limitations, despite the fundamental uncertainty of existence. So maybe the truth about wanting to stay in bed all day is this. It is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are awake. It is a sign that your consciousness has reached a point where the old ways of living no longer work, where the old forms of participation feel empty, where the gap between what is and what could be has become too painful to ignore. And yes, that is exhausting. Yes, that is heavy. Yes, that makes getting out of bed feel impossible some days. But it is also the beginning of something. It is also the crisis that precedes transformation. It is also the moment when you might finally become free to create a life that actually matches what you see and know. The bed is not the end. The bed is the pause. It is the space where you stop pretending long enough to feel the full weight of your consciousness, to acknowledge what you really see, to admit what you really know. And from that space, from that honesty, from that refusal to continue as before, something new can emerge, not easily, not quickly, not without pain and loss and fear, but genuinely, really, in a way that might finally feel true. So when you find yourself unable to get out of bed, when you feel that weight pressing down, when participating in the world feels impossible, remember this: you are not alone. What you are experiencing is real, and it matters. Your exhaustion matters, your refusal matters, your consciousness matters. And the world needs you to find your way back to action, not the unconscious action of going through the motions, but the conscious action of someone who sees clearly and chooses anyway. That is the truth about wanting to stay in bed all day. It is the truth about being human, about being awake, about carrying the weight of consciousness in a world that would prefer we stay asleep.